Hi everyone and welcome back to the George Collection. I'm Rachel Rightside Blonde. Today marks my 47th episode, and for those of you who've been following along, you know that number 47 is near and dear to my heart. The reason for this is kind of a long story, but I'll try to keep it short. Back in 2021, I started seeing 4s and 7s everywhere, and I couldn't escape them. They were following me around. License plates, signs, and all kinds of other things seemed like they were just popping up in my existence. I didn't know what to make of it until I saw a video on Gematria. Curiously, I looked up what Rachel is in Gematria, and it turns out it's 47. That piqued my interest. 74, by the way, is Jesus, which also piqued my interest. Since then, I've learned a lot about Gematria, and it turns out it's used quite frequently, especially by a certain man named Donald J. Trump. The perfect evidence of this is the number he chose to have people text to donate to his campaign, and that is 88022. 8888 in Gematria is Trump, and 2222 is MAGA, M-A-G-A. So, Trump, MAGA is what he's saying with those numbers. Coincidentally, Rachel's 47, and so is John. Another interesting coincidence is that George in Gematria is 57, and there happen to be 57 issues of the first George. There were 61 total covers, 57 issues. 61 in Gematria is equal to fake death. Though I featured this cover before on a previous George Collection episode, it's been a while, and I wouldn't feel right featuring anyone else or any other cover for the 47th episode other than Donald J. Trump. This issue was a bi-monthly issue, so it was February and March of 2000, almost 23 years ago. I also need to make note that a certain channel made it so I couldn't post a video last week, and when that happens, I take that as a sign to take the week off, reflect, and come back even stronger the following week. But it just so happened that that action set this episode up perfectly to come out on January 6th, the 47th episode with Donald J. Trump on the cover on January 6th. You can't make this stuff up. When looking at this cover, the very first thing that pops out is the Tiffany blue George on top. The color Tiffany blue has come to be a very important piece of this puzzle. For those of you who don't know, let me fill you in. On Donald Trump's inauguration day, Melania was wearing a beautiful Tiffany blue dress. She walked up to the Obamas and she handed them a Tiffany blue box, similar to this one. The significance of this Tiffany blue box is that when JFK Jr. died in his plane crash, he and Carolyn Bissett's bodies were put in Tiffany blue boxes and scattered at sea on July 22, 1999. In John Kennedy Jr.'s inaugural issue of George magazine, right next to the features page, features a Tiffany blue box, and Tiffany blue writing, I might add. Aside from Gematria, I've learned a lot about semaphore, the language of flags and colors and dress and all kinds of other things. So this whole thing has been extremely fascinating for me to learn, and I'm just doing my best to share what I've learned with you. The headlines of this issue are also very interesting when you consider Gematria, so I just thought I'd share a few of these values. On the cover it says, Bush is smart enough, with enough spelled wrong because we all know that Bush was not that smart. So the enough was spelled E-N-U-F, so that total comes to 195. 195 comes to the last president, it comes to connecting the dots, and it comes to best is yet to come. The next interesting headline is the secret behind Trump's political fling, which equals this is not the end, this is a new beginning. The final headline is the Trumpster at the bottom left, and that equals the value of one to be trusted and final tribulation. Aside from all of these interesting coincidences, I think the most interesting one is this. Out of 57 original George issues, Donald J. Trump's cover was the 47th. If Donald J. Trump were to come back as president again, he would be president number 47. Now, I already know the theories about the 19th president, so don't come at me in the comments. I'm fully aware of that theory as well. But I'm saying in terms of what things look like right now, he would be the 47th president of the United States. What are the chances that the 47th issue of George would feature Donald J. Trump, knowing the connection between JFK Jr. and Donald Trump? Was it planned that way? Was it a coincidence? What do you think? Looking into the article, which ironically starts on page 57, which I mentioned earlier is George in Gematria, It features Melania and Donald, and it's titled Behind Trump's Political Fling. The article is a long one, and it gives you a glimpse inside of Mar-a-Lago, and it gives you some indication as to what Donald Trump's thoughts were back then on running for president. What I found really interesting was a subheadline that says, "Who needs the White House when you have Mar-a-Lago to impress your friends?" I won't take the time to read this entire article, but I do want to read this excerpt for you. In the world of comeback kids, you've got Arkansas polls and their bimbos, and then there's Donald Trump, the comeback guy of all time, who by the art form of his personal life has managed to turn every failure he has ever endured into spectacular, gilt-edged success. Why should tomorrow be any different? It's morning in America, the dawn of a new millennium, and life is good. Of course, that article goes on to criticize him a little bit, but that excerpt right there, I think, sums up exactly where we are in history and exactly who Donald J. Trump has turned out to be for America. And if you disagree, I think you need to do some more research. Since it's episode 47, I thought I'd have a little fun and explain my hourglasses behind me and why I chose hourglasses. As I mentioned earlier, Rachel and John are both 47 in Gematria, but time is also 47. So the hourglasses represent time, and inside of hourglasses is sand. Sand is 38. Another interesting coincidence between John Kennedy Jr. and I is that John Kennedy Jr. was 38 when the plane crashed in 1999, and I, coincidentally, am 38 years old right now. Aside from those two coincidences, there's a few more that I've found that are quite shocking, but I'm going to save those for another day. I've got to keep you watching this show somehow. Before I let you go, because this is the 47th episode of the George Collection with Donald J. Trump on the cover, I'd be crazy not to show you this George cover with Donald J. Trump on the cover as well. This is the first issue of the George 2.0. You can find these physical magazines on georgeonline.com, or you can read it for free there too. It's up to you. I am honored to be a part of this project as the content director and a contributor, so I really hope you'll check us out. That does it for the 47th episode of the George Collection. I thank you so much for watching. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time.
George, which is a hoot of a magazine. I thought you were a lawyer.
I was.
What happened?
Well, we decided, actually taking a cue from folks like yourself and you around the 1992 election, that there was an opportunity here to change the definition of a political magazine. Certainly the way Americans were accessing information about politics and politicians was changing. Candidates were appearing on late night talk shows, on talk radio, on sitcoms, and there was a kind of a leveling process, and while the rest of media clearly had caught up with that, we felt that political magazines per se hadn't.
Your mother was a hell of an editor at Doubleday.
That's what I hear.
Would she have liked George?
I think she would have.